Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like them down under!
Down under what? Down under what? Down under the Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney, Australia, because that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are heading in what's I'm trying to math, not a math guy, 28 hours-ish from now. We will have fist fights for the second time in 2026, a numbered event, formerly a pay-per-view, back-to-back for the first time since 2021. Alexander Volkanovski doing the damn thing in the land of his people. And we, here at MMA Fighting, we're going to talk all about it. I am Jed Meshew. You probably already know that if you're tuning in, but if this is your first time, welcome. We hope you stick around. And joining me for this UFC 325 preview show, the same man who joined me just 1 week ago, the king in the north and the nicest man in all of not just combat sports, but sports in general. Alexander Cayley, AK, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Oh, am I muted? Can you guys hear me?
No, you're good.
I muted myself. I tried to mute myself. I tried to do the whole I'm muted bit, and I failed. What was I going to say? You had said something, Jed, that caught my attention at the beginning of the show, and I meant to respond to it directly, and I completely failed. UFC 325, yeah, man. 2 weeks in a row. This feels kind of fun. Kind of, I think we were all, when we were looking ahead at the calendar, all thought it was a bit strange that they were kind of shoving 2 pay-per-views into 1 month, though technically, if you're in local time in Sydney, it is February. It will be February. It will be February by the time it starts. Be early morning. So it is in essence a February event. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say now, Jed. Why can't you just say PLE? Why can't you say PLE? Come on,
I don't like that. Because I don't like that.
Don't you remember the old?
I'm not gonna do that.
Don't you remember the old Pride days when they would have Shogun and Fedor and be like, here's Pride, the Pride Shockwave premium live event. Don't you remember that and how juiced up you get to used to?
I don't. I'm gonna stick with pay-per-views mostly because other people still pay for them, so it's still technically true.
Up in the Great White North, shout out $79.99 Canadian.
Where do you buy them? Because are you buying them from pay-per-view, or is pay-per-view the brand name like Band-Aid?
Yeah.
We sort of subsumed pay-per purchase.
We have standard pay-per-view through our cable service, whatever it is, but also Fight Pass, which is still quite lively. I'm still using Fight Pass, so yeah, I just order through Fight Pass. But either way, $79.99 CAD.
That's tough. What's that, like $6 American?
It's like $6.50. USD.
Actually, not anymore. The American dollar is tanking, so it's just very possibly that's like $100 American right now. But that we didn't get on here to talk about conversion rates between our national currencies. AK, we're here to talk about some fist fights, and some stuff has already happened. And you, Alexander Cayley, you were privy to all of it. You woke up or stayed up. I'm not sure which one. But you were out here tweeting, reacting, being part of the live experience of weigh-ins, which happened for us on the East Coast at like 1 a.m. When did weigh-in start Eastern time? Like midnight, 1?
11 p.m. Eastern time Thursday.
Oh, so it was still 11. Okay.
Yeah.
I had been asleep. Actually, that's not true. I was watching the cinematic masterpiece called Shelter, featuring one Jason Statham. And then I went to bed after I got home. But some more tomfoolery, AK. Our first pay-per-view event, we had some shenanigans go down. We all remember the dude face planted and almost, had a really tragic incident. We got the different kind of shenanigans this time because Aaron Toe, who technically was not competing on the UFC card, as he was part of the Road to UFC that were also going to be aired, but not quite. It's a weird thing we talked about a little bit earlier this week. Technically wasn't competing, but still weighed in and tried to pull the old Daniel Cormier. AK tried to get his elbows onto the towel. Came in, weighed 122 pounds, and somebody was like, They Dikembe Mutombo'd him. They're like, that's You're 3 pounds underweight? I don't think so. 129, I believe, was the official weight when he did it all honorably and nobly, and that fight is now off. AK, you were watching this live. What were your thoughts? Because it was deeply fun to sort of come to that way after the fact this morning. Now you are muted.
Jeez Louise. I was watching on the MMA Crazy live stream. Shout out to MMA Crazy. I was using that. And I right away, it was very obvious something was wrong. For one thing, he showed up. I think Australia was just using a flat 2-hour window, not like we have in Vegas, the, everyone please show up at the first hour, and then exceptions can show up, like a handful of exceptions can show up in hour 2, or anyone who needs to gets cleared to weigh in again. This was, I think, was just 2 hours. So he showed up, Aaron Tell, about 90 minutes into the official window. So it already looked bad. We're talking about a flyweight here. It wasn't like a heavyweight who just like rolled out of bed and had a big breakfast and then decided to, come down whenever they wanted. Because Taliesin Teixeira, I think, was like the second last person to show up, and no one thought he was going to miss weight. It just wasn't even close. But Aaron, yes, he shows up with the box immediately. So it sounds like there's going to be issues. And you see him when he does the flex. So already I thought the pose was a bit odd, but didn't think anything of it. The weigh-in itself might have taken like 2 or 3 full minutes. You could see the commission like dinking it. Like it didn't make sense to them, I think. I think we were wondering why it was taking so long. And then you can see him kind of just dink. Must have dinked that thing 100 times, trying to get it to make sense. Because I think they saw like, wait a minute, why is this guy using the box? But our scale is coming in at like 122, 123. I think they were very, very, very confused. Then as that was happening, I started watching the footage more closely. And from the angle that MMA Crazy had, it did kind of look like, so this is the this is the pose. He was doing kind of flex. He wasn't doing hands up. It wasn't elbow straight up. It was a pose like this. So imagine you can see the box on my the corners of my screen. It was
looks almost exactly like that, frankly.
Not quite as obvious, because you could think to yourself like, oh, maybe he's not actually touching it from the angle I'm seeing. But combined with how long it was taking and kind of how long, you had to kind of imagine, oh, wait a minute, if his elbow is even slightly kind of the point of it grazing on the top of that box, it's going to help his weight. And unfortunately for him, way too much, overshot
a little too much.
122.5, so 3.5 under if you include the non-title limit. And thankfully the commission like right away were like, hey, Aaron, just come back here real quick, step on the scale, don't bring the box back. 129, sure enough, was like almost immediately after they called it canceled. I think Mick Maynard relayed a message to the UFC's official weigh-in show. They announced it was canceled. Just a really bad look for Aaron Tell, unfortunately. I know he had fun guy, pretty hyped fighter out of Australia. Fell short in the Contender Series. I don't know, and I don't think he's getting the call back.
I think that this is probably the end of his UFC aspirations, but what a way to go out, my man.
Legend.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, because that is the thing. Like, if you go back and watch the infamous Daniel Cormier one, it's an art to get that right. Like, even if you have a scale at home and you go stand on it and then you're trying to like put your hands on something and try to adjust weight, you're never going to be like, I know exactly the pressure to take. He needed 4 pounds. I know exactly the pressure to take 3 pounds off with just my elbow out here doing it. And you go watch DC, he's like judging weight on top of this towel, which makes it overt and transparent, but it was so audacious that nobody called him on it, basically. Toe was trying to be a little more subtle, and then he just botched it because it took 7 pounds off. And they're like, dude, what's going on, man? What's happening? What's happening here?
So we're down a fight. We're down a road to UFC fight. Technically not down a UFC fight. Apparently.
Technically not down a fight, but also kind of down a fight.
I feel real bad for his opponent. I'm sorry, who is he supposed to fight? Oh, this is so bad. Namstrey Batbayar. Who in all fairness, should just win by disqualification and be given whatever prize that UFC contract.
I was wondering that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a monetary prize. If there is, he should definitely get one. Like, don't reschedule. This is like to me a disqualification. I think Batbayar should get a contract, but I don't know how they're going to work that out.
I was curious about it because like they don't have sort of a backup road to thing. And so is he just the road season 4, whatever flyweight champion by default? Seems fair to do, but
should be.
No other major shenanigans at the weigh-ins, correct, AK? Just that one bit of, man, I got to tell you, the Paramount era is kicking off with all of the greatest hits of this sport in a very condensed time frame. Knock on wood for what I'm about to say, but it feels like we're going to get a draw in a fight very soon because they have just been doing all the things for Paramount to get this exposure.
The main event?
I mean, like 110-8 round and there's suddenly a draw, and this is just like the most UFC it could be in the first 2 weeks. But let's talk about that main event, AK, and before we talk about the main event, let's talk about the card in general. Did this last week, gonna do it again, just very briefly. Obviously, this card is not as good as 324. I don't think you're gonna say that. I certainly do not believe that. If you see over my shoulder, Mike Heck, I have chosen to give this one Meshew star for the card because I do think the main card has 3 very good fights and then some other fights on this card that are interesting. Not as good as last week. AK, you don't do the gymnastics score anymore, but just give me a vibe check. What's your level of enthusiasm for UFC 325 and Saturday night? Because last week we also got a little bit of a bump, right? We hadn't had fights in 6 weeks. Now you've had some fights. How are you what's your energy level heading into this one?
I'm kind of like what everyone else is thinking. I like the main card a lot. And I think from a pure thrills standpoint, this could be better than last week. I like last week. That main card had a lot of potential just because of the stakes. We had 2 or 3 of these people could be fighting for a title next if they put on a good performance. Even if the fight goes to decision, they could be exciting. But we also knew stylistically that some of these fights could lead to some, forgettable decisions. With respect to the winners on last Saturday, I don't know how many people are going to be talking about Sean O'Malley's win over Song Yadong. And some people thought Song won the first round of the fight, frankly. So it wasn't even a super convincing victory. I thought O'Malley won pretty clearly, but I could certainly go back and watch that first round and be convinced otherwise. Natalia Silva, Rose Namajunas, a great win for Natalia Silva, but we won't be watching that one again anytime soon. I think a great technical battle, not particularly enjoyable from a spectator standpoint. That's just being honest, right? And Jean Silva, I thought his fun fight with Arnold Allen was really good. But again, and even the main event, which we all enjoyed, has been getting criticized by some veterans for being a bit of a slop fest, which we all agree it was, but we still liked it. So from a pure thrill standpoint and the potential of getting finishes, I do think this could deliver more. I think Sal killed Tuiva every fight on the main card. Outside of maybe the main event, I think people would not be surprised if there was a finish. Again, I know we'll talk about the main event more.
I mean, even the main event wouldn't be shocked if there's a finish.
So top to bottom, obviously 324, way stronger. If we're just talking about main card, 325 is comparable from an action standpoint. So there you go. That's a nice thing we can say.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good way to cage it, right? Again, not as good a card. I gave last week's 2 stars. This only gets 1. If I was in Sydney, I would go to this, right? Because you've got a lot of things at play here. And I do think, broadly speaking, mostly going to be exciting fights top to bottom. And you've got some big storylines. The biggest of those, AK, is obviously the main event.
Oh, wait, Jed, I have a question before. Maybe I should say this today, but I think we do now. I don't understand, right now, what separates a numbered event from, say, a road show. What separates this from you, other than it? I guess we're designating 13 to 14 events a year that have to be headlined by a title fight. That is strictly what separates this from UFC Houston and London and all these other shows coming up, I guess.
Not technically, because I mean, realistically, the thing that separates them is the same thing that previously separated them. People will be paying money for these specific events
around the world.
You're not being charged pay-per-view for the apex of the thing. So that's still going to be the delineating line. I suspect that, a lot of talk with the move to Paramount, certainly here in America, has been, is there going to be more of a blurring of lines between numbered events and non-numbered events? I certainly don't think that'll be the case this year. There's broadly been a shift towards that in general, but I think primarily, maybe with very limited exceptions, we will see numbered events are where title fights are. Belts are on the line on numbered cards, and they're not on the line anywhere else. I think that's going to sort of be the vibe differentiator there.
Yeah,
my guess.
If this was just UFC Sydney, we'd all be like, oh, pretty cool card. Obviously, it would be different because they don't normally have title fights at the top of cards, so that would make it weird. But I'm saying if they just called it UFC Sydney, we'd be pretty optimistic about it. I think you're right. The fact that many markets still have to treat this as a pay-per-view is probably what getting a little bit of a a malaise around having back-to-back pay-per-views to start off 2026. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will be enthusiastic by the time fight night rolls around.
I think a little bit it's the malaise. I mostly think the malaise is just that it's a weird card because the main event, AK, it's not a good one, but it's not a bad one. It is just, It's one we've done. This is leftovers. We had Thanksgiving, and now this isn't the turkey sandwich on Friday. This is the, man, we still have turkey in the fridge and it's Tuesday. We need to eat this so it's gone, because we just saw this fight. Alexander Volkanovski making the first defense of his second title reign at 145 pounds. And it comes against the man he beat to claim the vacant belt, Diego Lopes. Lopes lost a unanimous decision to Volkanovski in April of last year, rebounded with a back and forth, really awesome fight with Jean Silva, where he dominated the first round, looked like he was about to get killed, and then pulled a spinning back elbow out of nowhere to score one of the better knockouts of the year and get himself back into this position. There are so many, even though this fight is silly, right? I think we can both agree. AK, tell me if I'm wrong. You could agree that this is a silly fight to be made, right?
Yeah, it's silly, and like not even in a fun way. Like sometimes we call fights silly, we're like, oh, we have a laugh about it, and we say like, oh, this is why this is silly, and you know, combat sports is silly, and this is great. There's so little juice around it. It was so deflating when it got announced, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Alexander Volkanovski, one of the all-time greats, Diego Lopes, very hardworking guy, very fun guy since he joined the UFC. Like I understand why he has a following, but when we just considering what we were coming off of, you know, that big Lerone Murphy knockout, people still wanting to see Movsar. Like I get it. I kind of understand Diego, of course, getting the shot over Movsar, who just hasn't been around, hasn't been able to compete. So I'm not going to complain about that. But it just feels like there had been some movement around featherweight. Like that's the whole reason you kind of move on from Ilya. Right? Can you make this vacant title fight? You get a new champion. Boom. Now this is someone for the top contenders to fight. And then suddenly his first challenger is just a contender we already saw. So very, 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 very deflating. There's a similar vibe, I think, to the 324 main event, which we all agreed was a great matchup on paper. Just the fact that it's for a title, the fact it's a 5-rounder seems so strange and so silly. That's kind of where we are here, because Volkanovski and Lopes won. It wasn't a bad fight. It was okay. It was fine. The second fight could be even better. Maybe they know each other better now. We get a more compelling fight. But again, when we're talking about, when we think title fights, when we think pay-per-view headliners, when we think like the start of a new era on Paramount and all that, it does take a little bit of the wind out of the sails. So it's really not the matchup itself or the names involved. It's the context, right? It's like if these guys fought again,
it's the matchup.
It's the matchup because
we just saw this matchup.
Of course, if they fought again at the end of the if they fought again at the end of the year after Diego picked up another win, and you know, Volk managed to defend against Lerone Murphy or Movsar, we'd be jazzed. Like, yeah, let's run it back again. Great. Volkanovski has not fought since that fight, and now he's getting Lopes again. And we only have a few Volkanovski fights left, right? And one of those being wasted on a rematch.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, it is just never a good thing when one of the dominant storylines coming into a fight is the conversation around this is not why is this happening? Because Dana White has had to answer this question several times.
Don't watch, Jed.
To the point where his response is don't watch, A+ promotion. Volkanovski's had to answer it. And, you know, all of what they're saying is true, but Volk is having to be like, I don't pick my opponents, man. They told me to fight him. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to try and do better this time than my dominant win last time, which is all he can say. Like, yeah, man, he shouldn't be, but he stepped up, and I'm not going to turn it down. And Lopes is having to come out here and be like, ask the UFC why I'm getting this fight. It's not, they gave me one. Are you going to turn down a promotion? No. So like, that is the biggest storyline of this fight, is that everybody agrees it's silly and it's happening nonetheless. And so that's not a good thing. I'll tell you, my biggest frustration with it is I understand why it's happening. He's exciting. The currency for the UFC right now and this year, and maybe just throughout the whole Paramount experiment is going to be entertainment. They are an entertainment first commodity at this point fully. And that's like that. They are trying to put shows and fights together that people will say, oh, I was flicking through my Paramount subscription, turned on the fights, and now I'm going to watch next week and forevermore because I'm a converted fan, since there's no longer a major paywall here in America. So I understand why it's happening. My frustration, AK, and maybe you can help me. I have spent basically since this fight was announced, I have been thinking this over, and I still do not have an answer, which is hard for me because I usually immediately know how I feel about something. I don't. What does this win mean for Volkanovski? If he goes out there and it gets his hand raised on Saturday, it's not nothing, but in the context of the sport and of a title reign and a guy who some people incorrectly claim is the featherweight GOAT, but is certainly like making a case in that direction. What does a win on Saturday mean?
Jed, were you aware that at the age of 36, he became the oldest fighter to win the featherweight title?
I think he's the oldest fighter to win a belt under 170 pounds.
Right. What if I told you he could now become the oldest fighter to successfully defend that belt?
That is a statistically true fact.
Is that giving you any? Did he get a little charge out of you? These Volkanovski is so old statistics aren't.
Well, I guess I
get out of the chair.
Well, technically now Gaethje's the oldest fighter to win a belt under 170 pounds, right?
Yes, true.
And that's the thing, like that's why I don't know how to judge this, because it is not his fault.
No,
he can only fight the fights that are there. But it worked previously because, like, okay, Jose got the belt back, but it didn't count. Everyone was like, okay, whatever. But Volk did the same. It's like, that's totally there. Those are equivalent. Jose beating Frankie Edgar, probably actually a little bit better than beating Diego Lopez or whatever. Volk beating Diego Lopez, those are equivalent. But then Jose lost to Max Holloway, who's Max freaking Holloway. But like, if Volk wins, I just don't. He's beating a dude he already beat who's not the number one contender in the weight class. And so I don't know how. It's not nothing. It's impressive to be doing this at 37 over good opposition, right? Like, because I don't think that highly of Diego Lopez, but he is undeniably like a top 5, top 8 featherweight, a good fighter. And so that is a meaningful win. But like, I'd like to see him fight Movsar Evloev, the guy who probably has the best claim to being the best featherweight on earth, other than Volkanovski and Ilia Topuria. So I don't know what to do with this.
Jed, what about, I have another stat for you, which I know you're going to love. If he wins on Saturday, he will tie Jose Aldo for the most UFC featherweight championship wins.
Yes, I've heard that stat.
Have you heard about that?
It's an incorrect stat, but
what?
Okay.
How could you say? How could you? It's
technically true.
A stat cannot be incorrect, Jed. Stats are truth and lie. This is a truth.
It is technically correct.
8 UFC title fight wins at 145 pounds.
It's technically correct.
Aldo currently only has a meager 8. Jed.
Aldo has 11.
I don't know what you're talking about. Why?
Well,
where would you get that number from?
Well, you see, when Zuffa, the previous ownership of the UFC, didn't have a featherweight division, they also owned a separate company called the WEC, in which Jose Aldo was the featherweight champion. And you might say, well, that's a different organization. And I'll counter with, when they subsumed the WEC in, they didn't make Jose Aldo fight for his belt. They just gave him the UFC one because it was the UFC featherweight title this whole time, which is also why Jose Aldo is the youngest UFC champion ever. I'm sorry, John Jones. He beat you by like 5 months, but we don't talk about that because reasons. I don't know. I don't know. But like, again, this is not even to have, like, it is a little bit. It's like a little bit of it is the Volk GOAT debate, because that's sort of inescapable with where he's at in his career and what he's accomplished. But it is just broader speaking. Like, I don't know what to do with this fight, because it's not a bad fight, but I've seen it. And with so few fights left for Volkanovski, I don't know how to contextualize this in the history of the sport. Him beating a dude he already beat 10 months ago, convincingly.
Yeah, I don't think there's a good answer, Jed. I mean, and I think people are going to be really excited when they hear your prediction for the fight, because I think you and I are on the same page. I've certainly heard you talking about the fight on shows. I've heard you talking about the fight in our Slack. So again, I can only throw out numbers, because numbers that, by the way, are, let's be honest, mostly meaningless to the hardcore fan. Like your hardcore fan who's been following Volkanovski's career, who knows about following Jose Aldo's career, of course, acknowledging the WEC fights. Anyone who knows all that stuff could not care less about what the numbers mean here. Again, I think the age thing is cool. I think it's like a fun feather in his cap. Maybe when we look back on,
I think it's meaningful.
But like, him winning it at 36 was already meaningful. Him successfully defending it would have been meaningful, meaningful against a different opponent, unfortunately. But he'll still have it. Again, if you guys care about numbers and stats, and he beats Diego, officially he'll have that record for now.
And I think that what you said is sort of where I'm settling. Is like it has meaning, but it would just be more meaningful if it was Mobstar. If it was even Laurel Murphy, like if it was just a different person, it would be more meaningful. And that was taken, like the opportunity for that was taken away from Volk because they wanted to give him Diego again. And so like, I'll say this also, as I want to shift to actually specifically talking about the fight and not just what it means in the context, right? Because massive credit to Volkanovski, because this is a pretty much no-win fight for him outside of physically winning. But like, if he wins, it's gonna be like, yeah, dude, of course you won. You already beat this dude 10 months ago, and he didn't. It's not like he Max Holloway'd his way through the division and demanded a rematch. Like, yeah, you won. And if he loses, it's gonna be a pretty tough look for him. So he is coming in with a lot to lose and very little to gain. Conversely, Diego Lopes, not much to lose, obviously an enormous amount to gain here. And AKI would say, much more opportunity for success than the first time around, because I wrote a breakdown of this fight. It comes up on the site, I think later today, maybe tomorrow, I'm not sure. But go check that out when it drops. Rewatching that first fight a few times, and if you hear other smart people talking about this fight, AK, everybody sort of says the same thing. Even Diego Lopes is like, that wasn't very good from me. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a plan, which I don't know. Maybe you should have a game plan for a championship fight, you bozo. But like, he obviously has a lot of changes he can make. And maybe he has learned from losing 23 minutes against, Volkanovski before. Volkanovski probably doesn't have that many shifts, but do you think Diego Lopes can come in with something? Do you think this is just going to look like the fight 10 months ago? Or is he capable of making changes? Is he going to do that? And we know Volkanovski's had limited rematches, but he's looked very good in those. So like, do we think he'll come in any different, or are we headed for the same fight we already saw?
I think it's gonna look similar for sure. I think it's rare the two fights look exactly the same, so I don't want to say it's going to be the same, but it's going to look similar. Just honestly, how much could have changed in 10 months? Yeah, Volk's a little bit older, and in the lighter weight classes, certainly even at 6, you could look different, than you did 6 months ago, and this is 10 months ago. But that different? I mean, Volk is, I think, one of our greats for a reason. For many reasons, and one of those reasons now that he's won the belt again, he's still so competitive, at this stage, is longevity, right? His longevity is so admirable, and there just wasn't anything in that last fight with Diego that had you say like, oh, he's really fallen off, like he's really lost a step. Because even when he was champ, he would get caught. Another thing we liked about him was his ability to fight out of adversity. So it wasn't like him getting caught by Diego was some big sign that like, that's it, like that's it for Volkanovski. It never happened before. It's like, no, that used to happen to him a lot, and he battled back. That kind of defines him. So it was very much like a lot of his great fights. And again, he couldn't do that against Islam in the second fight. Obviously, he couldn't do that against Ilya, and that's fine. Those are arguably the two best fighters of this generation. I don't rank Diego anywhere near those two, to put it nicely. So I can't imagine the pace, the tactics, the result being all that different this time around.
Well, let's talk about that result, because we don't need to spend 50 minutes talking about this one fight. And just AK, give me your broad breakdown of what you expect to see on Saturday. If those changes that you said don't expect different, how do you think it goes? Who's winning? How?
All right. I'm going Volkanovski by decision. It's not a sexy pick. It's probably a little too obvious. It's probably a little dangerous considering, everything we just said, that Volkanovski is older now. Again, 10 months should not be a crazy amount of time, but it is. That's 10 months of wear and tear. That's 10 months of training. That's 10 months of just general aging. That's 10 months where arguably Diego Lopes might have picked up a thing or two and is now better. It's like, just better and good enough to the point that he should be able to win the decision this time, or hurt Volkanovski this time and actually get a finish. I'm just not convinced. If it happens, no one will be surprised. Like, I don't think I'm assuming Volkanovski is a favorite, right? Yeah, he is the favorite.
Sure.
Yeah.
Around minus 150 per our friends at FanDuel.
And that's, and that is like, I think, the perfect line, right? That tells you, what? We all saw the first fight on paper. everything is equal, Volkanovski should win. But this is, you got to account for the random things that can have MMA. Diego Lopes improvements. Diego Lopes being bigger, stronger, younger. Again, skill-wise, I would just argue nowhere near Volkanovski, at least at this point. But we've seen a lot of fights where just the bigger, stronger, younger guy wins. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. And Diego Lopes is no slouch, by the way. I'm not saying he's like a one-dimensional fighter. I just think you're comparing him to one of the most well-rounded, most skilled featherweights of all time. So I am going Volkanovski by decision. Jed, I do want to ask you, obviously, for your prediction after that, if we're wrong, or if I'm wrong, and Volkanovski loses, it's kind of hard to say without some of the other featherweight contenders fighting or being booked yet, but how far? Let's say it's a Diego Lopes by knockout. Let's say definitive victory. Diego Lopes by knockout, first or second round, or Diego Lopes 49-46 decision, just the opposite of the first fight, just clearly outclasses Volk. How far does Volkanovski drop in the rankings?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all. Just a two.
He goes one down.
He goes one. You still put him above Movsar, Lerone, all these other guys.
I mean, he just has accomplished more than they have,
sure.
And you have to give him the credit for that. And
I agree.
so, and my assumption is, however, if he loses Saturday, they will do a third fight, and it maybe Lopes fights again because Volk, if he gets knocked out, wants to take a long stretch off to recuperate, like he did with wanted to do with Islam or whatever. But I think that we'll just see them fight a third time should Volk lose, but I don't think he's going to lose. I actually think these odds, the longer I've looked at this fight, I think these odds are just stone wrong. I know Volk is 10 months older, and that's always the concern. Lopez just has nothing to offer him. Truly, like, outside of being big and hitting hard and a puncher's chance at victory, it feels like it is a puncher's chance for Lopez unless he has made a wholesale changes. He does not have the footwork to really be dangerous to Volkanovski outside of one or two moments when, Alexander gets caught, right? Like, he's caught in transition. He got hurt twice in their first fight. Once he was sort of awkwardly like shifting stances and just sort of right in front of Lopez, who caught him with the right hand, and Volk recovered very quickly. And the other one, I'm not even entirely sure he got hurt so much as he caught like an uppercut clean to the eyeball, and that sucks. And so it took him a minute to get out. But in both instances, like, you're correct, AK. Volk has sort of always been a guy who, if you hit him, can hurt him. He doesn't have an ironclad chin, but he's got great recoverability. And he's so smart and savvy to work his way through problems and stay safe in the Badlands or whatever. And Lopez just like the two times he hurt him, just spazzed out and did nothing, and arguably lost the like sections immediately following hurting Volk because he was just being a crazy person and not being like a targeted weapon. And so it just feels like the same thing. If he doesn't have better footwork, he can't do it. The best part of Diego Lopez's game is by far his ground game. He didn't even attempt to take down against Volkanovski in the first one. So maybe if he does that, I could be convinced about something different. But if he's going to come in and just do the duck my head and throw the same 3-hook combo over and over again, Volk figured that out in like 2 minutes and then just jabbed his ass off. And it's going to be the exact same thing, outside of him like making huge changes, which we have no basis in evidence to believe will happen. Alexander Volkanovski is one of the 10 best fighters who I've ever seen compete in this sport. And I do not believe he's at his peak. I think he's actually probably fairly far off his peak at this point, basically. But he's still good enough to beat a guy who is so linear, like Diego Lopez. Because if Diego Lopez beats Volkanovski, he will be the worst dude to ever hold the featherweight title. Like, that's just a fact. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be an even more professional victory for Alexander Volkanovski as he cruises to a 50-45 across the board clean sweep over Diego Lopez. And I think a lot of people, despite the odds being close, it feels like a lot of people seem to think the same thing, which makes sense. Again, this fight happened 10 months ago.
Can't wait for the trilogy, Jed. Can't wait for the trilogy. Can't wait for Diego pull off that upset and set up
undeniably the most interesting thing that could happen Saturday would be Diego Lopez beating, like, really beating him, not just catching him and hurting him, but like, oh, Diego Lopes is controlling this fight and then finishes him. Then that would be like, oh, Diego Lopes is like, that's something very, very interesting. But I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for that one, AK. If I was going to hold my breath, I could hold my breath watching this fight because I may not breathe during it because we have the co-main event banger, AK. It is a banger. Dan Hooker taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. Hooker, one of the more exciting fighters in the sport and in the lightweight division, just a hair below that tier of Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, right there. And Benoit Saint-Denis, the spiritual successor to those action fighters. They are going to duke it out. And AK, kind of a weird one. Benoit Saint-Denis on a big winning streak right now. Dan Hooker coming off the pretty tough loss to Arman Tsarukyan. What's at stake in the co-main event on Saturday?
Man, a lot. A little bit less for Dan because I just feel like Dan is holding on to a spot as like a very high level and very respected gatekeeper, and that's actually like I mean that in a complimentary way. I think when you reach this part of his career, it's hard to be that. Lightweight is just so insanely dangerous. So to be able to like get wins over like a Gamrot, Jalen Turner, Nasrat Haqparast, like if you just look at the guys who he has beaten his last 4 wins, it's all people who theoretically were lined up to take his spot, right? We're all like, well, Dan Hooker's a tough competitor, but Jalen Turner's gonna be a champion someday. Mateus Gamrot's gonna fight for the title someday. And he managed to get wins over both those guys, again, among some other names. So that's a great place to be. And I think I'm not saying if he loses on Saturday that we go like, oh, well, Dan Hooker's never going to get a ranked opponent again, and he's not the litmus test anymore. But I think he's someone who does take pride. He does take pride in that sort of thing. Obviously, he enjoys getting paid. He likes having a job at the UFC. He likes being co-main event spots, right? And it's only his record of success that has kept him up there, right? So I think there is something on the line for him. Not so much as far as his immediate prospects, because I know a lot of us are talking about. If you guys listen on to the next one, we're all kind of saying, win or lose, Dan's probably going to have this grudge match with Patty. If he wants it, if Patty wants it, there's just no reason for the UFC not to make it. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. For Benoit Saint-Denis, I think there's even more on the line because I'm like, he had a fantastic 2025, bounced back from the Poirier loss, the Moicano loss. Like those losses were so, I think for a lot of people who are, especially for fans of Benoit Saint-Denis, like very discouraging, right? We saw this guy kind of shoot out of a cannon. But I think people forget, like, he's only been a pro for something, I think now like 6 or 7 years. There's the whole situation in France, where it wasn't even legal, right? MMA was not even legalized. So I think he was fighting, but he wasn't pro. So he has only been pro for so long, fighting at this sort of level. So there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. He feels like a grizzled vet, but he's really not. So it's hard to get a read on him. Is he the guy who, again, when it was time to step up against the Poiriers, against the Moicanos, just completely got blown out of the water? Or is he the guy who is like on a 3-fight win streak, finishing people and saying the right things, but I'm disciplined now, I've kind of put it together? Is he that guy? Because if he's that guy and that version shows up and just smokes Dan Hooker, you are legitimately talking about a guy who is right back on the championship path. Like, I think he's already flirting with it after going 3-0 in 2025. He beats up Dan Hooker in a co-main event of a numbered event. I think we're talking, a top 6, top 7 ranked opponent, top 6. I think Hooker's already top 7, top 6, top 5 opponent sometime this year. And then that BSD title shot is not out of the question. Probably, but maybe not this year, but 2027, it's not out of the question. So a lot on the line for him. Because I do think if he loses again to Dan Hooker in a fight where he's heavily favored, all those old questions are just going to come right back. Oh, Jed, you got to hit that mute.
Sorry. Dan Hooker is currently ranked number 6 in the UFC's lightweight division. So he'll bump up. BSD with a win will bump up a couple of spots. I kind of think that if Hooker wins, he might get the BMF title fight next because they don't really know what to do with the winner of that fight. If it's not going to be Conor McGregor, which I could also see happening, Hooker feels like a good choice for the BMF title fight. If he loses, I do think Patty makes sense, but also the more I think about it, the more it kind of feels like BSD might just be heading for a fight with Paddy Pimblett or Arman Tsarukyan. I hope it's not Arman, just because it's two good contenders that they'd be knocking off, but maybe that's where we go. But he's got to get there first, AK. And he is heavily favored to get there. BSD is, let me pull up the odds, minus 320 per reference at FanDuel, and Dan Hooker a plus 245 underdog. I think if BSD wins, everybody kind of knows what is going to happen there. He's probably going to get some takedowns. He's probably going to tap out Dan Hooker. It'll look a lot like the Arman Sarukian fight if BSD gets a W. But AK, how does Dan Hooker pull this off? Like, if he's going to pull off the upset, quick turnaround, by the way, after getting kind of tuned up by Arman Sarukian just a couple of months ago, got his nose put out of joint. How does he sort of overcome all of that and get a dub over what appears to be a tough stylistic matchup?
Jed, I forgot, is BSD your climb leg this week?
He is.
Climb step? He
BSD is one
just
of
to win.
two
Just to
climb.
win.
One of two climbs, just to win. Yep.
Just to win. And what's the other? Or are we gonna? Is that coming up?
The other one is going to be the over in the Finney Malkoon fight.
A daring call, very
daring.
We will definitely talk about that fight more.
I haven't put it in yet because I now have a policy where I'm going to wait until weigh-ins just for shenanigans.
Good
and
call.
So that's happened today. I'll put them in. Assuming those lines haven't shifted dramatically at my book, those will be the two climbs this week.
Yeah. Dan Hooker winning, man. It's so hard. You really just have to envision him somehow staying on his feet. And it's hard. It's hard after seeing the Sarukian fight, right? But I don't think BSD's takedowns are quite as good as Arman's. I don't think that's a bold thing to say, but he can wrestle. He does like to wrestle. He loves to just bully people down and just beat the absolute pee out of them on the floor. I mean, that's one trademark of his. So if Dan Hooker's minding his P's and Q's with the grappling and can keep this fight, it doesn't have to be standing the whole time, but at least, if he gets taken down, can get back up, minimize damage, maybe even throw up a few submissions, just get, BSD thinking about the ground fighting more than just being able to posture up and just pound Dan Hooker from the top position. Then it's possible. Like it is possible. I think he's a very live dog. I just think all of our on paper concerns are very real. It's only a 3-round fight. Benoit Santini's coming out looking for a first round finish. He's not going to be coming in here tactically, trying to give Hooker any time to establish range, establish rhythm, set up a kickboxing space. That's just not. If that's what BSD does, then that's how he loses. I mean, that is clearly not the plan. So it's all about Dan Hooker, takedown defense, which he has, takedown defense, ground defense, getting up quickly, using the cage well, and turning this to a stand-up fight, which he can win for sure. BSD, a heavy hitter, he could KO Dan Hooker on the feet for sure, could hurt him real badly on the feet. But I think it would argue just as much the other way, that Dan Hooker could either pick him apart for 3 rounds and win a really fun, exciting decision, or land a kibosh of his own and put BSD away. But there's a good reason why BSD is such a considerable favorite.
Statistically, the exact same takedown percentage between Arman Sarukian and Benoit Santini, both at 37% accuracy on their takedowns. BSD shoots more, actually, so a little bit more successful in some respects. But I also agree broadly, and so I'll give you my prediction before I send it back to you, AK, for your pick on this one. I think he's going to get him down, and I think that's going to be a big problem for Dan Hooker. But also, if he struggles a little bit, Dan Hooker, he beat Mateusz Gamrot, but he had some moments with Gamrot. Like, Gamrot was not totally out of his depth on the feet. And Benoit Santini is a much more dangerous man on the feet than Mateusz Gamrot is. I think if this was exclusively a kickboxing match, I'd probably pick Dan Hooker, but I would say that it's close. And when you mix the martial arts, which I know you hate, but if you mix the martial arts, I think clear advantage for Benoit Santini. So I'm going to pick him to get a submission probably early in the first half of the second round is going to be my official prediction. But what about you, AK?
You're saying first half of round 2. You're saying don't bet the fight.
I'm taking the under.
You're taking the
because I believe the over under in this is the 1.5 mark, and I will take the under. I don't have a massive level of confidence in that, but that's where I'm at.
I think I'm reverse jinxing here, and I'm going to go even way more under, Jed, and I think BSD can end this one in the first round. So I hope that's not true. Big Dan Hooker fan. I really hope, again, that the best, most optimistic scenario plays out for him, where he is able to keep on the feet and just turn this into a brawl. But I just can't imagine that. That's not what we saw from BSD, frankly. in his resurgence, in his 3 wins. He's mixing the martial arts because he's good at it. He's just so physical. He's such a physical guy. And even when you're a tough guy like Dan Hooker, there's not a lot you can do when someone like that is just bearing down on you with like full pressure. So I'm going first round, ground and pound TKO for.
You got to go sub because if he gets subbed, then there's a outside chance. I would say unlikely, but possible that Dan Hooker versus Paddy Pimblett at UFC London in like 6 weeks. That's on the table. If he's not too hurt, and I mean I know Paddy's wearing it a bit right now, but I could see Paddy making that turnaround for UFC London. There's a reason we don't have fights for that yet, and I think they're waiting to see and how everybody shakes out of this. Okay, I got one more fight I specifically want to talk to. Then we will go to a very quick pick the best of the rest for each of us to pick one fight, and we'll do the Q&A. But the last fight is the feature bout. This is a 3-fight card, in my opinion. There are 2 other main card fights, and they're both fine. But this is, in my humble opinion, the best fight on the card at all. It's our feature bout. It is our feature bout between Rafael. Sorry, I like to do the soft R's. But it's Rafael Fiziev and Mauricio Ruffy. And AK, before we talk about this fight, we got to talk about the face-off. And mostly, we got to talk about this clip that I spoke with producer extraordinaire Mike Heck. I don't know if you've seen this, and I don't know if the viewers at home have seen this, but man, Mike, can you pull that clip up? Because the face-off between Ruffy and Fiziev is my favorite thing I've seen this year. I know we're only a few weeks into this year. Still my favorite thing I've seen this year.
Rafael, son of Salman, son of Ali Abbas. I'm from Azerbaijan, and I'm gonna hit you with my head, with my elbow, with my knees, and with my kick. You're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel that after tonight. And I'm ready. And I'm smiling when I'm going to battle, my bro. Let's go.
Thank you, gentlemen. See you Sunday.
Yeah, that's good. That's a look I like from you. That's a look I like. I want the best Rafi from you. Yeah? Let's go. Good.
AK, how come more fighters don't invoke their lineage when they are trash talking their opponents? I am Rafael Fiziev, son of Ali, whatever it was. I am Jed Meshew, son of Jed Meshew, and I am here to take your blood. Like, that was awesome, AK, was it not?
We've seen some goofy stuff. The first 2 wasn't Arnold Allen? Wasn't he trying to play some sort of mind games with Jean Silva or something?
He spells.
He was casting spells on him. He had like a tattoo as well. He had like a tattoo. He's like, look at this. Look at the tattoo.
Look at this. Is the best Arnold Allen rules.
Yuri Prohachka is not enjoying these face-offs right now. I'm telling you, he is somewhere like saying, no, fighters should not be invoking these kind of spirits in the mortal realm of UFC combat. Yeah, that's great. I will say I don't think Rufi. I could be wrong. I don't think Rufi speaks great English. No,
I don't. I mean, Rufi was training with Volkanovski.
Okay, people correct me.
I assume he speaks some level of English.
Correct me if Rufi's a fluent English speaker. I apologize because I was just the whole time I was watching. I was, and of course Rufi's no selling it no matter what. But I was just like, how much of this is he getting? Also it's in the arena, right? They're always saying
it's arena. There's a whole bunch of people.
He is shouting in his face though, but
and it's not. Fiziev is also it's 2 non-native English speakers speaking in English, or that being the conversant. But it's just like the Fiziev being, I am son of blank, son of blank. These are my fists, and I will punch you with them. Is rock. Like, no lie. I was gonna pick him anyway, but I'm now like I would like to bet the house on Rafael Fiziev because that ruled.
It was very Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood when he's doing the exorcism of the church lady. Yeah, it was great. I had not watched that. I apologize, guys. I had watched official weigh-ins, but I for some reason had just kind of skipped out in the ceremonials. I saw some of the quotes from there. Did not see that scene, but Fiziev, man, he is one of the best characters in MMA. In a perfect world, he'd just be so much more famous. Like I know fight fans love him. We know that everyone who knows fight fans love him. He should be like mainstream famous because great personality, great look this week, rocking the hair. I mean, the hair is just fully flowing. My God, it looks absolutely fantastic. I hope he's not. I hope he's going in the cage like that. I hope he's not planning a haircut before. looks awesome. And then I thought him making fun of, not even making fun, but like doing his bit about the John Silva, how emotional John Silva was about the UFC belt, and then him doing that, but around just like a barbecue I thought was so funny. So he's done the funny workout stuff before, like making fun of people doing dumb workouts in the gym. He's great, man. He's a great, and then in cage, it's a super entertaining fighter. So I do not know why Fiziev is not more famous than he is. I know he missed some time due to injury, but he should be like up in that like B tier of like UFC stars, and silly that it isn't. So hey, who knows? Maybe this is the year of Fiziev.
I mean, I honestly hope it is, because you're right. I didn't even mention the hair is just amazing. Everything about Fiziev is awesome this week, and I blatantly hope he wins. It would just make me really happy if he won on Saturday, because but for Justin Gaethje, this dude would have fought for a belt already. Like, he just can't be Justin Gaethje, which is annoying, I'm sure, for him.
He should get a title shot for surviving 2 fights with Justin Gaethje. I think surviving 6 rounds with Justin Gaethje is like, you know what? You deserve a title shot.
Was very close to winning the first one. Yeah. The second one less so, but also the second one was weird and on super short notice. And so that's just sort of where he's been. But if he beats Ruffy, I think honestly, if he beats Ruffy, he might be fighting Benoit Saint-Denis if BSD beats Hooker. They might be like, well, we don't have anything else to do. The two of you guys fight it out to see who gets the push to fight Armin for the vacant title or whatever it's going to be. But I just wanted to bring up that clip because I saw that this morning and I have not stopped. I have not stopped thinking about how he's the first dude to ever go full Game of Thrones. I am Shagga, son of Thor, son of King, and I will hurt you. It rocked. AK, before we go to the peeps for a little Q&A and bring Mike Heck in, we got some other fights in this card. I'm going to run them down real fast. Pick one. We don't need to dive into it too deep. Just tell me one of the other fights that you were looking at. Our other 2 main card fights are Tai Tuivasa versus Taliesin Teixeira, ranked or half a ranked heavyweight bout, maybe walking papers for Tuivasa. And then we open the main card with Killen Salkill taking on Jamie Malarkey, biggest betting favorite on the card. Junior Tafa takes on Billy Elikana. Cam Roston takes on Cody Brundage. Jacob Malkoun, Torres Finney, a middleweight contest. Jonathan Mikulev versus Oban Elliott. And then our early prelims go Khan Ofli taking on Yiza. Kim Song-wook taking on Dom Marfan. That is a Road UFC championship. The lightweight championship. The featherweight Road UFC championship. Kichiro Nakamura taking on Sebastian Zale. If I got that wrong.
Nailed it.
And then the bantamweight Road UFC championship, Sulong Rongbo taking on Lawrence Louis. What of these other fights which is the fight you are the most interested outside of the big 3?
Jed, I have 2 bets on this card. I'm no bets barred aficionado, but I have 2 wagers. I'm going Alexander Volkanovski at plus money. Win by decision, specifically win by decision.
Okay.
Volkanovski by decision at plus money. And I'm going Torres Finney by decision, also at plus money. You can get it on FanDuel, guys, at a solid plus 240 right now. I think that's not terrible value for a man who, if he wins, may never win by finish in his UFC career. He may go undefeated. I mean, this guy might become UFC champion. I can almost guarantee all of his wins will be by decision. He's also I think he's the underdog in general. So
he is.
I would love to know,
ironically, only 3 decision wins in his career.
How can that be?
Because he mostly tackled and tapped very bad people on the regional scene.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Okay, so let me put it. He in his UFC career, he may never have another finish again. We are in this territory. There's a lot of fights, Jed, where I'd like to see the inner workings behind them, like throughout history. I think this is on my top 5 all time of I want to know how this fight was put together, because this is just perfect. It is Jacob Malkoun, not a bad fighter, one of the most forgettable and weirdest fighters on the roster, though, because I mean his last win was by knockout, quote unquote, due to someone running into his side.
A guy knocked himself out by tackling his hip. It rocked. One of the cooler finishes of the year.
And then outside that, again, there's quite a few. He's a wrestler. He's a grappler. Jacob Malkoun makes no secret when he goes in there. He wants to grapple. Guess what? Torres Finney is the same way. This is going to be the somewhat easily movable object versus the quite stoppable force, and I can't wait for it. I just think this could be like we're only in the second UFC event of the year. This could end up going down as one of the worst fights of 2026, and I cannot wait. I
have a morbid curiosity. I'll tell you how the matchup got made. They said, "Who's a short middleweight wrestler?" All right, at least if they fight each other, they're not fighting other people. So we'll just have them fight each other. Malkoun averages 6.6 takedowns per 15 minutes. Torres Finney averages 9.31 takedowns per 15 minutes. Granted, Torres Finney has, I think, 4 fights per the UFC stats, because UFC stats does track the Contender Series stats, but still. These are 2 not very tall middleweights who are going to shoot a whole lot. That's why I'm on the over in this one.
But Jed, imagine if they can't shoot on each other and the wrestling is neutralized, and instead they have to kickbox for 15 minutes.
It's going to be bad kickboxing.
Can you just...
Malkoun wins that fight if they get to do that, so he should try that. But
Finney's so muscular.
I think this is going to be 15 minutes of maybe some quite good grappling, but this might look more like it belongs on an RAF card than on UFC 325.
The only thing wrong with this fight is that it's not at the Apex.
Honestly, I am surprised it's not that, though. I guess it's Malkoun, and they want to do that for him.
Sure.
For me, I will take the low-hanging fruit of the other main card fight we didn't talk about, because I don't care about any of the prelim stuff, basically. And it is Taito Ivasa versus Taliesin Teixeira. Mainly just a morbid curiosity about what the hell this is. Taito Ivasa only 5-fight losing streak. He has not competed in 18 months. He talked this week about being fat and having to get over being fat so he can come back. I think he tipped the scales at 264.5 today, AK, if I recall correctly. And Taliesin Teixeira is a Contender Series guy who, because he's a Contender Series heavyweight, already has a ranking, but he got ethered by Derek Lewis, who I think is washed. Taito Ivasa is also washed, but if Derek Lewis can punch you, Taito Ivasa could also punch you. So just a morbid curiosity about what goes on here. If Taito Ivasa's time off, as he said, did sort of clear his head and he got better, okay. But otherwise, we will see probably something terrible happen. But I gotta look at this particular train wreck. So that's the one I'm picking. Mike Heck, get on in here. Mike, let me just first say, terrific job producing already, by the way. A+ stuff. Do you have any thoughts on this card broadly before we go to the peeps?
I don't know what Australia did to the UFC to deserve the types of cards we're getting. I mean, 2 years in a row, pretty tough, man. Like I think this main card is better than UFC 312. There's no doubt about it. This one is better than UFC 312. But man, like top to bottom, like they deserve better. I thought they were like paying a whole bunch of money. They have a multi-year deal. Like them and WWE have this like huge deal going on with that arena. They deserve better. Like I think the Aussie and like
I can tell you exactly what happened.
And it's 9 a.m. Sunday morning
that
they get to go in there and watch that. Like that's frustrating as well. Like, can we just, you're on Paramount now. Can we just give the locals their correct start time every so often? Like it's okay to do that.
Especially for this one is the one to like, I always think like you should just do Australia. You don't have to do like you could find the middle ground, right? And just get it so it's something a little bit better. But alas, but I'll tell you why they did this, Mike, because it's Australia's fault and New Zealand's fault. Because all the Anzac fighters aren't very good. Like they like this card is just almost exclusively Anzac fighters. And it's just like, okay, you're all solid, but you don't have, we're far from the heights of CKB, where if you put together all of the CKB guys, it'd be like, man, this is banging. Now you've got Cam Ralston, who's fine, but he's Cam Ralston, you know?
Like we couldn't have thrown Adesanya Piper on this card. Like we had to do it in Seattle, Washington, of all places.
That would have been better. Because I do think this card could use a little bit of juice to really make it feel more like a pay-per-view and not like a awkward one, but it is what it is. They're counting on Volk to do some heavy lifting, I think. And we are counting on you to do some heavy lifting for us for the remainder of this show. We are going to go to the peeps. As always, super chats get priority. Got to shout a couple of things out. First, shout out to LazyBed, who re-upped his membership, 11 months going strong with the message. Shout out to well-known Moroccan Yusuf Salal. That is a touchback to me versus Luke Thomas on this week's prop quiz. Go check that out. It dropped like an hour before the show went. So shout out to you, LazyBed, one of our best stalwarts. From CT Kook 6477, $5. Gonna keep paying you, Mike, until you find the victory horns. Have you found those victory horns, Michael?
So overall, I haven't. However, because Jose Youngs is actually not going to be at this event, and we don't have to multi-stream multiple things after the event, we're just going to keep the watch party stream rolling through, take a little breather, same link for the post-fight show. And in the wonderful thing that Casey Lyden gave us before he left the victory horns in this particular video thing that I can edit and produce on. The victory horns are in there, so you're going to hear them tomorrow.
Oh, we love the victory horns. We love Jose Youngs too. Also, a note on that: it's looking like we might be digital watch partying tomorrow because of inclement weather coming your way. Not 100%, but
it's looking.
We're getting really close to 100%.
When I moved to South Carolina, I didn't want to hear the words "winter storm" anything happen, but I know from my experience in Massachusetts that when we go from a winter storm watch to a winter storm warning, that's usually a bad sign. So
watch is better than warning. So,
yes. So
the first two pay-per-views nearly offset for us by inclement weather. But if it is remote, we'll still do the digital one. They'll hop in and join, and it'll be fun regardless. And then I'll wake up in my own bed where it'll be 12 degrees and I will hate everything. Listen to us complain while I'm sure AK is in like minus 10 Celsius right now.
It's negative 21 in Toronto.
Oh,
yeah.
Oof.
Oh, that hurts my feelings.
I have not left it at my place today. I'll tell you that.
Maybe this $10 super chat from Spencer.
Dude, we should give it to AK. That's the coldest I've ever been is -5 with the wind chill. It was 0 flat. I've never been actual negatives. Woof. Remind me not to move to Toronto. From Spencer. Thank you, Spencer. Howdy, gentlemen. With no pay-per-view, I'm actually happy and excited for main card. Fun fights, ? Spencer, we got to work on your grammar.
You might only have so many characters to work with.
I missed for BTL, Justin and Poirier compared a lot in careers, and usually DP was ranked ahead. Does Gaethje pass him pound for pound historically now that he has won the second interim title?
No,
that's a very interesting question.
It is. I don't think beating Paddy Pimblett and winning a meaningless title affects his legacy considerably, does it? No.
I think that it might, because not considerably in the term of considerably, but Poirier and Gaethje are basically neck and neck in my opinion for what they've accomplished. Poirier accomplished more. He just was in the UFC longer. But like if you look back at his featherweight run, it's not that good, really. So like you're basically looking at his lightweight run, which was very good, but like also how meaningful are 2 wins over that version of Conor McGregor, you know? Like that's Gaethje and Poirier have accomplished incredibly similar things. And so just adding one more might be the difference. Like the Poirier's best win is Max 2, I think. And that's an incredible win. I think that's better than Gaethje's best wins. But Gaethje's best win is being the guy who ended Tony Ferguson's career, which is also sensational. So, I mean, they are neck and neck in my book.
This changes nothing for me. Because I remember we had this conversation where it's like, whose career would you rather have? Would you rather have Gaethje's or Poirier's? It changes nothing. Like, I think Gaethje's career is better. Like, I think just his overall line of work from World Series of Fighting to where he's at now, I think his overall line of work is better. If I could have one of their careers, I'm taking Dustin Poirier, mostly because of the business side of things, because love Justin Gaethje and I know Ali's like, oh, Justin makes more money than anybody in the UFC or something like that. I don't believe that for a second, but Dustin Poirier, I'm sure his bank account is much healthier than Justin Gaethje's. I'm sure Justin's doing just fine. But Dustin made a ton of money and had a much different road because he got to get back. He got to knock out Connor, and then he got to fight him again, and he clobbered him a second time. And Connor hasn't fought since, and he's gotten some big fights and big opportunities from that. I think Gaethje's road, honestly, was a bit harder. It continues to be hard, but if I have to choose one career, I'm taking Poirier's, mostly because he got a lot of money.
I think I would have said Gaethje had a better career anyway before this fight. Because I think it has been better. Not by a massive margin, but I just think he has accomplished more than Dustin Poirier has. With the caveat being Dustin Poirier is certainly the more beloved of the two fighters. And so a lot of people will disagree because Dustin Poirier is a very beloved figure in this sport. But I think that like being the only two-time interim champion is weird. But again, it's kind of like the Volk thing we were talking about earlier, AK. It's not nothing. It's not nothing.
I think it is nothing.
He beat another top 10
He beat
guy.
another top 10 guy, yes.
That's good. Like, that's not nothing.
That is, okay. That the belt means nothing. He beat a current top 10 lightweight. Yeah. Fine. Convincingly.
And he now has the opportunity, even if most people don't think he will convert on that opportunity, he has an opportunity to do the damn thing. I think I would rank him over Poirier before this. I think I still would. Maybe he's added a little bit of distance. But I mean, they're very, very close in the sort of like lightweight hierarchy historically, in my opinion.
I think it was very big for him to definitely get the last bragging rights in their feud, the head kick.
Yeah, if he hadn't beaten Poirier, this
Yeah,
might be a hard, like it would be, you could still make an argument, but Poirier would have that over him. But he beat him, Poirier has beaten Max. He's lost to Max to MMA Math. I think the Fiziev wins are, Poirier got the BSD win. It's a good win. Justin's got 2 over Fiziev. The Tony win is just incredible. Like, it's such a good win.
It's when Tony was at his hottest. Still at it.
I think people just forget how great because not only was it like, oh, that's the dude, he beat the soul out of him. Like, he ended his career. Like,
essentially. Yeah.
he is the dude who broke Tony Ferguson for MMA. Now, Tony Ferguson resurgent into Misfits boxing, but that's neither here nor there.
You better hope Justin Gaethje doesn't go to Misfits or he's in big trouble.
Man, let me tell you, I've been workshopping this take, and I think I feel pretty good about it. If Tai Tuivasa loses, if he can't get Jake Paul, and maybe Jake Paul would be like, I'm not going to fight that dude. He should fight Tai Tuivasa. But if not, Tai Tuivasa in either BKFC or Misfits, sign me up. I want to see
Dirty Boxing, man. He could be like the face of that company. They apparently have a bunch of money to throw around. So
sure. Any of those would be fine. Put Tai Tuivasa. Let me see him bare knuckle fight Ben Rothwell. Or in a perfect world, I think it would be deeply funny to watch Tai Tuivasa box Jake Paul. And I kind of want that to happen.
AK, I have a question for you since this is our...
Mike, before you do, let me just quickly read the results of the poll.
Please.
Who wins the UFC 325 main event? 70% Alexander Volkanovski. That sounds
right.
Pretty consistent with the odds. I was looking at Tapology. 67% are picking Volkanovski to win. 92% are picking Volkanovski by decision. So, yeah, it's consistent with what I think people were thinking when this fight was announced. Nothing has changed in between then and now.
Like the UFC screwed up here so badly because Diego Lopes is one of the most like over guys.
Yeah.
And they put him in like a lose-lose situation here. Because if he loses to Volkanovski, like he's going to get so much crap because of like the 1 day, 2 days after the fight was announced. He just like called everybody out for complaining about it. He has since done what I've suggested.
That was his fault. He didn't have to say that.
Yeah, he screwed that up. But I understand he was a little frustrated. He's like, dude, all I said was yes to a title fight. Like, why is everyone giving me shit for it? And I get that. He's not used to this type of thing. And if he wins, like, oh, well, it's because Volk's rinsed and washed and old, and like he gains very little from this in the overall appeal of things. Like, he's the champion and he could start potentially winning money, but like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna fight John Silva again? Because like, kind of seems like that's probably what they're gonna do. So like,
I think that's pretty good for him, though. Like,
could be
he can win that fight.
Yeah, but then it's like another rematch.
Perfectly fine for him. Like,
he's just fighting the same 2 guys over and over again, and then that's gonna like catch up to him. It's not fair. Like, you think anyone's gonna complain about watching Diego John Silva? I don't think you should, but there will be people who do. So
Eh.
he's in a tough spot.
I think if he wins, it's fine.
If he loses, it's very bad.
tough. And there's like a small downside to this being the victory, but like it doesn't really matter because also he can just get on the mic and be like, I thought I didn't deserve this fight. And it will still be true, but the truth doesn't matter at this stage of the proceedings. It's like, yeah, look what I did with it. I am the best in the world. I'll fight whoever you want. I'll fight. He probably won't fight Mavsar because he's not afraid of Mavsar. He and Mavsar are in the world's weirdest rivalry of, I want to fight you. No, you don't deserve to fight me. Now I want to fight you. No, you don't deserve to fight me. And they're just going to do this forever, apparently.
Why hasn't the UFC jumped on the Yair Diego fight? What's going on there? Is it too personal?
They're waiting for, well, the honest answer is they gave Diego a title fight. And now they're probably waiting to give Yair a title fight if Diego wins.
I think Yair was hurt too.
Sure.
So
he's always
really
banged up. Yeah, I could see that. But man, it just feels like the UFC has no interest in making that. And I'm like, oh man, it's right there.
I mean,
right there.
Look, if Diego wins, there's a non-zero chance that's the fight we get.
True.
Depending on how Volk handles it.
My question for AK though, real quick, Jed, is something we talked about on BTL yesterday. Can we make a case, AK, that finally we have a second title on the line for this card? Is the middleweight championship officially on the line?
It's back
between Torres Finney and Jacob Malkoun. Is the winner of this fight the brand new undisputed middleweight champion?
It might be the heavyweight middleweight champion.
You and I have loved talking middleweight talk, but I think we've also somewhat always had a philosophical gap because I think you started touting guys. I lost control of it. I think I started letting you tout guys that were too good because you started touting guys that were like ranked, that were like legitimately close to title shots, and I was like,
well, let's
I
remember.
think the middleweight belt you're ineligible once you get ranked.
You can be close, you can be ranked, but like once you're on like a 6, 7, like 8 fight win streak,
once you're ranked, I think then you should be like a professor emeritus, right?
Okay.
Like you have just graduated from it, and everyone can look up to you. But once you're ranked, you're in a different ballpark.
Sure.
But you have to remember where the middleweight championship came from. It was like, who is the 16th ranked middleweight in the UFC? That's what it originally was. And that was like the Krzysztof Jotko award.
Yes,
he was always like the 16th best guy and couldn't beat a ranked dude. So he was
Still
always
might
the
be.
16th best guy. But he just happened.
You've seen what Krzysztof Jotko's doing overseas. He still might be the 16th best guy.
He still might. He might be the champion. And then like at one point, Brendan Allen became the 16th ranked middleweight. And then like he wins the middleweight belt, and then he goes on this run, and then we agree to strip him. He loses to Nasruddin Imavov. Like, we ruined his career. He might have been fighting for a UFC belt by the time this happened.
But the problem is we started naming fighters who were too consistently entertaining. That's where you started losing me, is when like these, I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. These are guys who can actually put on good fights. Torres.
That is the most important part.
Yeah.
Plus middleweight
middleweight
also became good.
That's the other problem.
Good.
Yes, that's the other problem. Guys like you start actually becoming real contenders, like good fighters. This to me is like, the key here is like, it is such a horrible match of styles. We know if it's a wrestling heavy fight, it's gonna be bad. If it's a stand-up heavy fight, it's gonna be bad. Like there's just maybe we're out to lunch, guys. Maybe one of these guys smokes the other guy in the first round with like an overhand right. I don't know. I cannot picture it. I cannot see it. Maybe it happens. But this has all the makings. Yes, we are kind of rebooting here, and I will very happily call the winner of this fight the new, like, capturing a vacant middleweight title, and then we got to see where we go from there.
I'd like to get my Otno pick in. I make one Otno pick roughly a card. This is my Otno pick right now, staking my claim. The winner of this fight, the newly crowned middleweight champion. We're going old school. We're going Kamaru Usman gets the title fight here. In my opinion, the true GOAT of middleweightiness, and now no longer ranked, and he's never been exciting. Give me the winner of this fight versus Marvin Vettori, and that'll really solidify middleweightiness.
Wow, Marvin is very much in play now.
I'll say the problem with Marvin was he got to be like top 5, but he is spiritually the most middleweight guy.
Fought for. I'm sorry, I thought you were going to mention Brad Tavares. Shout out to Brad Tavares. I'm a little disappointed.
Also very middleweighty.
Little disappointed you didn't shout out Brad.
But no, Marvin's in play now. Like he's totally in play. So
I mean, if they give Mateva Gauthier, like that could get real middleweighty. After what we just saw.
I'm just saying the
On
winner of this
Saturday.
fight versus Marvin Vettori. That's my official Otno
All right.
prediction.
I
Mark
like
it
it.
down for all the peoples. Joseph Bosa, 7-4-4-8. With a win tomorrow over Dan Hooker, BSD will win 4 in a row. How many more fights will he need for a title shot? So, AK, we touched on this a little bit, but I don't think we ever got to a number. And Mike, I'd be curious to hear your position here. How far away from a title fight is BSD in the suddenly very murky, conflicted lightweight division? We've got 3 belts at play in this division right now.
Several? Like, he's going to have to win like
More than
3.
2?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Unless
That might be true.
unless somehow he ends up the fine folks of the Paris Tourism Board decides to pay the UFC a bunch of money. We don't want a fight night card. We want a numbered event. BSD would be like a good dude to have on the other end of a main event. So that wouldn't be a bad one. But I think outside of that, he's going to have to beat. Who is he? Like, he's probably going to fight like Charles Oliveira if he loses to Max Holloway, and that's fun. I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, that fight rules.
And then he's going to
That fight rules.
and then he's just going to have to fight like a really tough dude. He might have to fight Arman Sarukian along the way, and I don't think he beats Arman. So, yeah, he's this 2, maybe 3 more. I don't know. It's tough to say with MMA being so weird and the UFC kind of being what it is, because anybody can really catch fire if you do it at the right point at the right times. And he fights like 3 times the next 4 months and gets like 3 straight finishes. Like, that's huge. That puts him in a great spot. So, but this is lightweight, man. It's the best division in the sport. It's the toughest division in the sport. And yeah, I think he's cut. His road is a bit longer than the Paddy Pimbletts of the world.
I can see it.
I agree. I don't. Maybe I shouldn't have been agreeing so much with like how many fights it's going to be, but just the amount of time. Like, I think if you'd asked me how many months, it's going to be like a year and a half. Just because we think Gaethje will get Topuria. That's supposed to be the plan anyway. We don't know for sure when Topuria is going to come back. Optimistically, we're dreaming of a White House return. Of course, him and Gaethje would really help to kind of give that card the weight it's supposed to have. But that would be June. So that's already, 6 months into the year. And then when will the winner of that fight again? Will they fight again before the end of the year? It's very possibly not. It's very possibly whoever does that does the White House card and then just does not defend the title for the next 6 months. Like, we've seen this before. This would not be unprecedented. So yeah, BSD either has to stay active during that time and fight multiple times, or fight once, and then he's going to might want to sit and wait for his turn. It's going to be a while. And this is assuming, like other names said, Arman is out there. Arman, like, does he just jump over Arman? Does Paddy find some way to just get another shot? I mean, listen, they love Paddy. Like, I don't know. Does he beat someone and then just, Paddy's available and we're going to this certain area or whatever? It's just hard to see him jumping over some of these names, even though he will be knocking on the top 5 if he beats Hooker on Saturday. So I'm going more about like timing. I think it'd be like a year and a half, like not to like next summer, but we're even thinking of BSD getting a chance. And that sucks because it feels like he should be closer.
I'm thinking it's 2 to 3 because it'll depend on what fight he gets after that. If he gets Charles after this and he beats Charles, then he's fighting for the belt after that. If he has to fight, Fiziev, after this, like if Fiziev beats Ruffy, he's going to fight him. Then he's not getting a title fight off beating Fiziev. So I think
that's tough fight too.
2 to 3 counting this weekend feels like the right answer. And they're lightweight, so they're all tough. But that's sort of the nature of the beast, especially in a division which is really muddled at the top right now, because we had a very wonky, odd, curious title fight last week for an interim belt.
A lot of people bring up the talent on the analyst desk, more specifically Chris Weidman.
Masters of the Universe Classic. I did see a few people not so keen on Weidman on the analyst desk. He said a few things on the weigh-in show, too. Ricky Tercios isn't talented and something else I forget. I did not pay that much attention to Weidman on the analyst desk, and I didn't see any of the weigh-in show. I was very clear. I did not care for him being put on the broadcast before 234 or 324. But do you guys know like what was being said out there? What did Chris Weidman do to draw some attention at him?
To draw the ire. He insulted Pretty Ricky. Apparently, I did not hear that.
Apparently insulted Pretty
shocked
Ricky.
that he would just.
That's tough.
Poor
Tough
Ricky, who
scenes.
didn't even get a chance to fight on Saturday. That's pretty mean.
It seemed like he was like everything that I saw. I mean, I really only heard Weidman for like 10 minutes between like the Q&A ending and like the actual prelims of 324 beginning. He seemed real stiff, like not real loose. And it's to be expected when you have like new people who haven't worked together, working together in such a big spot with so many people watching on a network that's never broadcast a live fight from your organization ever. So there's like a million things and there's tons of pressure. Seems like Kate Scott got better throughout the card. Some people didn't really like her very much up there. I thought she was fine. Everything that I heard. And then you have Cruz and Bisping, who honestly should just be on the desk as opposed to doing color commentary for these events. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll pay a little bit more attention tomorrow since we're starting the watch party a little bit later this time around. But I think Chris is actually really good in this spot because like he is actually like low key, like has a dry sense of humor that is very easy to listen to, but you just kind of have to catch him at the right time and you have to be in the mood for it. It's not for everybody. I get that. But I actually like Weidman getting this spot, but that's just me.
Yeah, I wasn't watching it closely enough probably, but the way I would best describe it, and this is not just Paramount thing, this is kind of carryover from the ESPN era, is it just feels like they have people up there, faces we recognize, Bisping, Weidman, Cruz, former fighters, all that stuff. That's great. Michael Chiesa. But they're just doing like, they obviously don't come from a, traditional broadcasting training background, right? These people didn't go to school for broadcasting. That's fine. We've had many great, personalities in other sports who didn't go through school. They're former athletes. That's like the formula, right? But it feels like they're just trying so hard to imitate that old Fox Sports formula, right? Like that's the formula that Fox Sports established long ago. The wacky desk, everyone's we're joking around. Someone says something, everybody laughs. Oh, it's been that formula for so long, and now we're just like shoehorning in these athletes into it, these ex UFC fighters into it. Some of them are okay at it, some of them are not, but it just comes off as, to me, just like so uninspired and so like. Maybe I'm a stick in the mud, guys. Tell me in the comments. I know I'm just this guy hates fun. I don't know. It comes off as so like banal. And again, it's not just them. This is across sports. It is not just UFC. It is not just the people I named. It just happens that these are people who are, a lot of them, relatively new to being in this kind of role on live television, and it shows. So I don't dislike Chris Weidman. I don't dislike some of these fighters that get to do these things. But if they are coming off as amateurish or silly or like not taking the product seriously, it's because they're probably being told not to. Like that is kind of how these broadcasts are meant to work. It's supposed to be a fun, happy time where we're giggling and making predictions every now and then and getting up to crazy antics. So you're not getting a lot of great analysis, unfortunately.
I think everybody they put on the analyst desk is mostly bad. These people aren't broadcasters, and so they're not naturally good at it. And they may know things about MMA, but the way the broadcast works is not even really primarily to convey their knowledge to like the masses, which sort of neuters it. I basically think like they've completely done it backwards, where the best thing you can have to be on an analyst desk and not a play-by-play person, or not a play-by-play, but like a color, is personality. And like, I agree. I think Dom Cruz can be funny. I think Chris Weidman can be funny. They don't have like personality that shines through a camera and a national broadcast. And so they are horrible choices, in my opinion, for this. Daniel Cormier is somebody who would thrive on an analyst desk, and I don't think is that good as a color guy anyway. But like, that is a dude who has a loud, boisterous personality, which sort of is built for something like that. And like, honestly, I also think the best way, like for all of these shows in general, I know these guys are friendly and communicate. The best personalities for stuff like this, especially analyst desks, work when it is a natural, usually pre-existing friendship that is then carried over. Like the Inside the NBA is the gold standard of it.
Everyone wants to be that too.
Because and that's the goal. Like, it's hard to be that. But the truth is, like, Charles and Kenny and Chuck, or not Charles and Chuck, Shaq, like, they are all big, funny personalities independently, right? And they interlock in different ways, but they are big personalities outside of this context, and they're they're friends. Like they are. So there is banter. They take shots at each other. And so like occasionally you'll get that on those broadcasts, and that's sort of the best, but like it would just straight up be a significantly better analyst booth if they put DC and Habib up there and just let those two dudes just trash each other while talking about fights. And you have one sort of, person to corral the thing. So I think they just do it entirely backwards.
Yeah.
And Daniel Cormier should be on the analyst desk and like put other people in the commentary booth, because there are other people that are better at that job than him.
Yeah, and sorry, just the last thing I want to say about it is like I don't want to make it seem like I'm slamming all these guys they put on that desk and saying like, oh, they should, because it's not their fault that they're being put in these positions. Like you shouldn't expect them to necessarily just be natural broadcasters. It is a skill. Broadcasting is a skill. Talking in front of a microphone is a skill. I'm not saying I'm good at it.
People literally go to school for
I
it.
went to school for this. Again, am I good at it? I don't know. I don't think so. But I have a baseline level of competency to put my face in front of your screen and blah, blah, blah. And these guys don't have that. And again, and shouldn't be expected to. It would be the same as, okay, so it's like this. Because these guys have worked in MMA and have talked about MMA so long, they must be good on camera. No, it doesn't work that way. It'd be the same as flip it around. Oh, well, AK Lee studies MMA and knows about MMA and talks about MMA. Let's throw him in an amateur fight with little to no preparation. I'm sure he'll be fine.
You're really good.
No, I'll be murdered.
So good.
I'll be murdered in 15 seconds. It would be terrible. Or I would run around for 15 minutes and put on the most boring, horrible fight you've ever seen. And that's kind of like what we're seeing here is like these guys, of course, they have the knowledge. Of course, they know how to talk about it. Of course, they've done it. They have that experience. But actually communicating it in an effective broadcast is a skill. So I hope a lot of these guys get more reps. Like I think Jed is right. Some people are just miscast, but they certainly
reps are always going to help.
Yeah, and they certainly have knowledge and something to offer. We just got to still refine. I think we're still very. I like to say we're still very young in the wide mainstream broadcasting lifespan of MMA.
The other, I think Bisping's pretty okay on the analyst desk. Like he has that general personality anyway. The other thing that they don't really think about, I don't think they've considered this. The best people, if you are not going to just pick like a group of 3 pre-existing friends to put in the booth together, would be to pick fighters who coach. And I know all fighters coach to some extent, but there are levels of coaching. And like the reason Cormier would actually be quite good is because the point of coaching is communicating ideas about how to effectuate the things you want to do. And so like when Cruz is at his best, he's not doing color, because I hate him as a color analyst, but he's at his best because he can talk about like, here are the things strategically or tactically and communicate that clearly. Right. But like, if you just picked other coaches, like that would just be better to do that. Like guys like Daniel Cormier, trying to think of like, who are other fighters who are actively coaches, right? Who would be like, make sense.
Gilbert Burns coaches a bunch. Robbie Lawler coaches a bunch, even though it's not a ton of personality.
Well, I don't think Robbie Lawler would work.
But if you sometimes Robbie, if enticed and put in the right frame of mind, can be very, very good and very, very educational. Like there's not a ton of great Robbie Lawler interviews out there, but when you find a good one, it's damn good.
That's the thing. But that is my feeling on Weidman, is mostly he's dry. Occasionally he's got some juice to him. And so that you're just playing a bad numbers game. Like I think Volk will be a very good broadcaster when he gets, if he wants to do that. And I would encourage them to pursue Volk as a broadcaster whenever his career is done. So I think
I would like that. I always thought Kamaru Usman would be like tremendous at that. And then he got like Henry Cejudo'd over the last couple of years, and he's dropped off so badly.
It's a little tough.
But I mean, maybe keep him away from Cejudo and just throw him up there. I think he might be okay. He might be pretty good at it. But man, when he tries to just like deliver a hot take, it's brutal, man. Like it's tough. But when it's just him like talking fights and like the analytics behind it, there might honestly be nobody better than him. But now we're creating content now. We want people to fire our takes everywhere.
You got to know your role. Like the NBA doesn't have desk analysts also doing color commentary, and those aren't the same people. Stephen A. Smith isn't calling an NBA game and then being in the analyst desk and then giving hot takes. You're in one of these lanes.
Yeah.
So pick it and be in that lane.
Yes. Let's throw one more, not a UFC question, but this is happening.
From a man called Lazy Bed MMA.
I'm not
familiar.
Lazy Bedma.
Lazy Bedma.
Gents, tonight A1 Combat, Cali Kid Uriah Faber. Cali Kid Uriah Faber returns to the mats for a combat BJJ match versus UFC/WEC. WEC doesn't count, as we've already established. Fake promotion. Vet Francisco Rivera, 46 versus 44. Full contact palm strikes. This is why we watch. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Barry H. The self pat on the back.
Sure.
Okay.
You can watch that
Sure.
on UFC Fight Pass. Prelims are on YouTube, I believe. But yeah, guys, support some of these. I check out Misfits today, everyone. I wrote up a fight from Dan Henderson has an MMA promotion, which I didn't even know about. Hendo's Fight Club or something. It was their 22nd show. So guys,
that sounds like I do remember that.
Yeah.
Also, apparently Zhang Wei Li's getting in the fight promotion game. Saw that today too.
Right. Yeah, man. Listen, these are people giving back, which you love to see. Just attaching their name. I think some of them to existing promotions, some of them founding, but either way, really putting themselves front and center for to give these promotions a boost. So Uriah Faber, Sergio Pettis, Jorge Masvidal has done a bunch of combat sports stuff. Being the brains behind the scenes. So cool stuff there. Good shout, Lazy. And guys, check out the highlight on MMAfighting.com from Hendo's most recent show. It was nasty. It was a nasty knockout.
Yeah. Dirty boxing tonight as well.
Yes.
DBX 5.
Jesse Rose Clark, is that right?
Jessica Rose Clark versus Paula Bittencourt, the main event for the inaugural Dirty Boxing Women's Bantamweight title. Probably their least strong card in terms of
Almost
name
certainly.
value. I mean, they have some obviously notable names like B Wins fighting on it, former one fighter. Haliam Paiva's fighting on it. Zach Pauga's fighting on it, I believe. Raheem Cleveland's coming back. It's fun. I will say, watching the Dirty Boxing cards, it's very fun. They go very quickly. How many fights are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Yeah, I wouldn't go. They've learned lessons from their third event where they put on 16 fights. And even I told Jason and company, I'm like, don't do that ever again. That's a terrible idea.
You can do that if you're RAF because your stuff happens so fast, but anybody else don't do that.
RAF could do 40 fights.
RAF will allow you to
hours.
really up your numbers if you want to do it, but nobody else.
Yeah. So that's happening. There's things happening. So if you want to stay up and watch, that's free on YouTube as well. So check that out if you're
happening.
so inclined.
And there's things happening tomorrow too, Mike. We've got boxing. Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson. We have got the Royal Rumble, truly the only professional wrestling event that I find marginally interesting. I may even watch it, assuming
Rumble
I'm not
pool?
driving.
Are you in a Rumble pool, Jed?
No, I'm not. How do we get into a Rumble pool? I know the concept from the Ariel show, when Ariel worked with us.
Well,
but
they didn't invent it. I was doing Rumble pools.
Well, no, I know. I'm certain they
before
didn't
me.
invent it. I've never done that, but it is the one. I say this all the time when we talk about pro wrestling. It's the one thing where I can watch because I don't have to know a thing.
No.
And it's mostly not like wrestling, which I generally find tedious. Just not for me, but it's just send the guy over the rope.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I can follow that. That's very easy.
And then a celebrity shows up and you're like, what the hell's going on?
Plus last year,
why is Drew Carey in the Royal Rumble?
Drew Carey's back.
When Iso Speed got clobbered last year, that was dope. So there's usually one or two cool highlight things that happen, and it's very digestible, and I can just not pay attention to the other wrestling stuff. So I might even watch that, assuming I'm not driving down to Mike. And then, of course, the big enchilada. Sunday, Zuffa Boxing, right? I believe there's a Zuffa Boxing on Sunday.
Oh, boy, there sure is.
But no, the actual big enchilada, UFC 325, Saturday evening. We will have all your coverage on MMAfighting.com. Mike, are you going to be doing a pre-fight Q&A, I assume?
Yes, with Jose Youngs. Special
with
guest
Jose Youngs. Pre-fight Q&A with Jose Youngs.
4:15 p.m. Eastern time.
4:15. Make sure you tune in. We will have our live watch party. That's going live at 8:30, so tune in for that. Then a post-show and all the coverage you have come to know and love. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, AK. Love y'all.